4 ways in shorthand. Here are the 4 ways of dancing. Now, it's a little bit clumsy to have to say, for instance, B, A, B. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to start to introduce some of the nomenclature that I've created to make it just easier to convey these. And the way that I've done it is actually pretty simple. What I do is I've taken the first letter and the last letter of each dance to describe it. In other words, number 1, that's A, B. Okay? Because since I know that the first letter is A, I know because in each part the other person has to make the other move. I know that if it's A, the person that the next move was B. If I have B at the end, I know the one before that was the opposite. So since I know if I have A and B, I know that it was A, B, A, B. So let's put it down. A, B. That's number 1. Number 2, following the same logic. We have A. Number 3, following the same logic, we have B. And number 4, following the same logic, we have B, A. So, these are the 4 ways to dance. A, B, A, B, B, and B, A. I will become more familiar with those as we go along. Thanks. So, what does each form of dancing mean? What does it mean whenever somebody dances A, B, which is what AD stands for? That's the first and the last, who makes the first and the last moves in that step when they dance together. Well, let's go back to the very first example that I used, and it was asking the time. Now, if you recall how this typical interaction occurred, well, this is a non-sexual, purely interacting with another human being. If I wanted to get the time, I needed to know the time. I'd see someone, I'd walk up to them and say, "Excuse me," then we'd say, "Yes." We'd say, "Could you tell me the time, please?" And then we'd say, "It's 5 o'clock. Great. There were 2 parts in that interaction, as you noticed. In the first part, when I initiated, what did I demonstrate when I said "excuse me" to that person? I was polite. But the term for that, the term I'd like to use for that, was that I was respectful. Part one of the step, in any dance step, however you do it, demonstrates whether or not you're being respectful. In other words, I want to get the time from that person. So before I ask them for the time, I respectfully attract their attention. What I don't do is, I don't walk up to them and grab their wrist and look at the time and walk off. You don't do that. You could do that, but that's not being respectful. I can just walk up to them and say, "Tell me the time, please," without being respectful. So I might be being, okay about it, but essentially that's disrespectful. The respectful thing to do is to let the person know, to indicate that you're about to initiate an advance, which in this case was, I would like to get to know the time. I'd like to know the time, so I was respectful to that person. So that showed that I was being respectful. The second part, I said, "Excuse me, yes, can you tell me the time?" That was the actual advance. What if I'm standing there going like this, someone's watching, I walk over, "Excuse me," and the person says yes. I said, "Would you like to have sex?" that was completely inappropriate. It was completely inappropriate. Because within the context of what just occurred, they're probably anticipating that I'm going to come up to them and ask them for the time. But I didn't. Whenever I walk up to someone within that kind of context, that kind of environment, they're expecting me to behave in a certain way, and you would do likewise. You would do likewise. You'd have a certain expectation about the appropriateness of what they were going to do. And that comes down to something that I call honesty. In other words, there's a relationship between this part and this part. And whenever these two are congruent, what you have is something which is called appropriate. This is appropriate behavior. When I show respect and I'm being honest whenever I make advances in someone, my behavior can be described as being appropriate. Now, what can be appropriate in any given circumstance is determined by the contextual nature of the interaction. And that becomes clear when we look at all the other types of dancing, because we're going to leave A-B dancing for now and summarise it by saying this. A-B dancing is simply an attempt to get information. It's an inquiry. A-B dancing is always an inquiry. Okay? It's straightforward. Excuse me, yes, you can the time. It's 3 o'clock, thank you very much. It's an inquiry. It's always an inquiry. So now we're going to look at another type of dancing, and we're going to look at when that is appropriate.